The story of Rebecca SEKIDIKA, Rivers first-class graduates, dies a week to our travel to the UK. The family of Rebecca SEKIDIKA, a 24-year-old first-class graduate of Benson Idahosa University, who died on February 2nd after a routine checkup at Paragon Clinic and imaging diagnostics in Port Harcourt, suspects medical negligence after an overdose of spinal anesthesia led to her untimely death. The police in Rivers State have launched an investigation into the painful death of Rebecca SEKIDIKA, a 24-year-old first-class graduate of microbiology. The death of Rebecca, a vivacious and brilliant daughter of Samson SEKIDIKA, who hails from Okirika local government area, Rivers State, occurred at the theater of Paragon Clinics, an imaging situated in Port Harcourt, the state capital. Our journey to the untimely grave was painful and brief. The promising, beautiful girl was hale and happy when she walked into the hospital, the theater, for a minor medical procedure, but after an hour, she had become lifeless in a pool of blood, like a dead cow on the slaughter slab. If Rebecca's parents, especially our wealthy father, who has been working as current certified engineer for the Nigerian LNG Limited for about 25 years, had the premonition of danger that lurked around, they would have discouraged our daughter from seeking further inquiry into a minor health problem. But February 2nd, 2024 began like a normal day. Rebecca had advanced her preparation to travel abroad in pursuit of further studies. Our first destination would have been the Brain Station in the UK. She was billed to travel on February 9th. Our father had already secured the required visa and paid for our flight and accommodation for a 6-month course on software engineering. The plan was that after our 6-month course, Rebecca would settle down for her master's degree and her PhD. Indeed, she had already packed her belongings to take off for the trip before she decided to know her status and to have her medical record handy. The UK-born student was already undergoing online classes before the incident. The only complaint that moved her to seek a medical inquiry about her health status was her delayed menstruation. She had gone for some weeks without observing her menses. Hence, she became curious and wanted to know why. Her curiosity took her to Paragon, a hospital serving as retainer in Port Harcourt for the LNG, where her father works. But that singular decision had become a source of agony and regret for the SEKIDIKAs. SEKIDIKAs could not control his tears, recalled that our daughter had gone to the hospital prior to February 2nd, ran some medical examination, including a pregnancy test, which turned out to be negative. He said the hospital had advised her to return on the aforementioned date for further examination. The engineer said, prior to 2nd of February, my daughter had a brief clinical visit to Paragon Clinics, an imaging location at number 96 Stadium Road. The complaint was that she had not seen her menstruation for a while, so she decided to know why. When she had the clinic visit, they subjected her to some tests, including pregnancy tests, which came out to be negative. But they called her again to say she needed to see a specialist for final examination. The specialist booked an appointment with her to come between 12 and 1 p.m. on the 2nd of February for a simple procedure they called hysteroscopy. It is just a procedure that involves using tubes and light bulb through our vagina to check if there is anything in the uterus. It is purely for diagnostic purposes. It takes between 15 to 20 minutes depending on the doctor. They have a monitor to check. It doesn't involve giving anesthetic. It doesn't involve any surgery. On the fateful day, SEKIDIKA drove her daughter and her mother, his wife, in his car to the hospital to undergo the procedure. They waited for the doctor for more than 4 hours, but to no avail. Maybe the long wait was a tell sign for the parents to take their daughter back home, but the senior SEKIDIKA was no longer within the hospital. He had gone to attend to some issues within the city. However, when he called at about 3 p.m. to find out from his wife whether the doctor was around, he was told that they were still waiting for the specialist. In fact, the wife told him that his daughter was already online undergoing a virtual class with other students on her laptop. At 4 p.m., the father, who felt that they had waited too long, raced down to the hospital to take them back home. The traumatized SEKIDIKA said, "I took my daughter. She was healthy. She had no medical condition. I took her with our mother to the clinic. When we got there, the doctor didn't show up between 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. Then I decided to leave them there to go and do some other things and come back to meet them at about 3 p.m. I called my wife and she said the doctor wasn't still there. She said my daughter had even started online classes because she went with her laptop. They were doing online classes because of her physical classes wouldn't start on Monday. She was supposed to travel on the 9th of February for her master's and PhD. Everything had been arranged, including flight. At 4 p.m., I called and they said the doctor was still not around. I decided to be on my way to go and pick them up, get them back home. On getting to the hospital, it was already late. The engineer explained that when he got there, they got to the hospital, he was told our daughter walked into the theater at about 4:30 p.m. He said, but when I got there, close to 5 p.m., they had already taken her to the theater at about 4:30 p.m. I asked why theater, and they said it was there. They had the monitor since they started around 4 p.m., 4:30 p.m., at 5 p.m. She should be out, and she was not out. At 5:30, my wife heard a shout from the theater, "Rebecca, wake up." That could be when she passed. I don't know. We saw them running around, going in and out, and they were not telling us anything. They only told us everything is okay. Your daughter is fine. We didn't know she had died. At around 7 p.m., the doctor came out and broke the sad news to us. Sorry, we did everything we could. Your daughter has passed. SEKIDIKA's wife and himself, SEKIDIKA, died temporarily with the news of their daughter's passage, while the father was numbed, lost in thought, and gazed motionlessly. The wife was screaming, crying, and throwing herself up and down. Where did they go wrong? The engineer said. It was if I was dreaming. I only has got to wake me up from this bad dream. My wife started shouting and throwing herself up and down during this period. The doctor, anesthetist, and nurses all disappear at the third floor, leaving us there with the lifeless body. They ran, and where they went to, I didn't know. In the process of shouting and crying, my wife called her son and told them what had happened to our sister. It was around 10 p.m. When we went into the theater, we saw the body. We saw blood all over my daughter's body on the floor. I was confused. I have the gory pictures. I didn't know why the blood. Nobody explained to me. SEKIDIKA said. While in confused state, his colleague who had heard what happened rushed to the hospital to see him. He said it was the colleague who dragged him to the office of the doctor and the anesthetist. He said, my colleague came and dragged me down to see the doctor and the anesthetist. When we got to them, my colleague asked them what happened. The doctor pointed to the anesthetist and said he gave her spinal anesthesia. The doctor said 30 minutes after he gave her the anesthetist, she said she wanted to throw up. From there, she started throwing up blood. At that point, the doctor said he became confused. He didn't know what to do. They tried to see how they could manage the situation until she lost too much blood and passed. When we came out, I was still confused. I didn't know. They were going to give my daughter's spinal anesthesia. Experts have already analyzed the situation. Spinal anesthetic is only given during major operation. My immediate elder sister is a consultant physician. Her husband is a surgeon. I could easily go to any other hospital and take care of it, but this hospital is a retainer with my company. The company refers us there. We go there for clinical visit, but this does not entail any surgery or any form of opening up. That was why we went to this particular retainer qualified by my own company. I didn't go there on my own, SEKIDIKA said. He had to reach out to his sister, the consultant physician, and told her how her niece passed at the hospital. He said, I told my sister that I didn't understand what they were saying. It was 12 midnight already. My sister came with her husband, went up to see the niece, and started crying. She almost fainted. The husband took her to see the doctor and the anesthetist that did this. The doctor explained a similar thing, that 30 minutes into the procedure, he noticed that the girl was throwing up blood. This means that the process of using tube disrupted an artery or vessel. The anesthetist was killing her, and then the rupture, so she bled throughout. My sister turned to the anesthetist and asked, you gave her spinal anesthetic? What for? She said, even D and C and evacuation are done without anesthetic. SEKIDIKA believes that the hospital killed her daughter out of sheer negligence. But the hospital, in the cited death certificate it issued to my family, wrote that the girl died out of coronary failure due to pulmonary embolism, vascular rupture. The engineer had vowed to secure justice. He immediately reported the matter to the police following the advice of his company. He said the police had begun investigation into the matter, adding that the hospital and persons involved in painful and untimely death of his daughter must be brought to book. It was also gathered that the LNG had opened an independent investigation into the incident. with a view of helping the family get justice and reviewing its relationship with the hospital. The hospital, however, evaded inquiry about the incident. The reporter visited the hospital and demanded to speak to the chief medical director or the manager, but the female receptionist said the CMD doubled as the manager. After filling the visitation form, the receptionist demanded to know the purpose of the visit. When she was told, she made some intercom calls and eventually said the person who was supposed to attend to the inquiry was not on seat. She took the reporter's telephone number and promised to call him, but she failed to do so. When our correspondent called the telephone number on the hospital website, the receiver, who identified himself as Chima, also promised to relay the inquiry to the management. The police have since intensified investigation into the circumstances that led to the tragic death of Rebecca. The police relationship officer, Grace Iringe Koko, confirmed that the manager of the hospital has been arrested and 2 other doctors were indicted in connection with Rebecca's death. So sad.
Thank you for watching. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing so you won't miss out any of our latest video.